نبحر معكم لعالم الجمال. إسبو اف ام.
If you're looking into a new radio station, if you want a hear change, start listening to Radio Espoo FM International.
مع نرجس.
دراسة وعمل، استشارات قانونية، أسئلة وأجوبة، قضايا ومعلومات مع نرجس. Kaikki mikä koskee arabialaisia ja lähi-itämaalaisia Suomessa.
كل ما يهم الجالية العربية والشرقية في فنلندا.
كل هذا وبرنامج مع نرجس. Good late afternoon from the heart of the capital city, Helsinki. My name is Nargis Hadi and I'll be your host today on this weekly program brought to you by Radio Espoo FM International. Today's topic is a controversial topic, discussion, as a matter of fact, on abortion laws here in European Union. I'm going to be discussing about this law in general, but I do want to point out that why we are discussing the matter of the abortion here in Europe and why this year it is absolutely necessary for all the European Union membership countries to actually pay attention to what is happening in Poland. And what I want to do is basically give you a platform where we can honestly discuss these issues, these matters, even though if we don't agree on the legislators' reasonings, even if we don't accept the methods of the medical procedures, we need to still have an open discussion about anything regarding to our rights to our own body. And this is an issue that is concerning everyone in Europe currently, because we're not going to only talk about certain country that has certain laws. We're not going to be talking about certain procedures that are hurting women or that are for benefit of a woman's body. We're discussing about the very fundamental idea of why this law really matters, or all these laws regarding to abortion or your simple human rights. Let's take a short break, and after that I'll come back to you with the discussion.
العطش ذبل شفاف وعافن وراح متت لكن روني دموعي لو نرتاح واصبر يا البعيدين وقت بفراقكم ما نامت العين لو نرتاح واصبر يا البعيدين وقت بفراقكم ما نامت العين أتمنى نطير وعندي جناح ياخذني عليكم يودي يا راح البلياكم تجي.
Good late afternoon for those who are tuning in to Radio Espoo FM International. My name is Nargis Hadi and I'm your host today on this weekly program. So, today our topic is actually the very controversial abortion law. And why I decided to speak about this issue or these laws are related to what is happening currently in Poland. As you all know, Poland is a member state of the European Union. This means whatever is happening in Poland is sort of automatically going to be regarding to us Finnish citizens as well. Because the memberships must at least respect the fundamental rights on which basis the European Union was established. And I do want to begin with the very first issue of this whole discussion. So we are discussing about the abortion law in total, but in a general sense. What I want to do is necessarily discuss why there are certain things that we need to take into consideration. In this sense, what are the rights of people on their own body? What are their basic human rights? And I want to talk about something I think is seen only in legal context, but it's not something we discuss in a, for example, daily talks with our friends or family members or anyone. But the subject, what I want to begin with, is bodily integrity. Now, when I say that this is something that is seen in legal context, I mean when we're suing someone over, well, I'm going to say some sort of crime related to your bodily harm. Bodily integrity is inviolability of the physical body and emphasizes the importance of personal autonomy and the self-determination of human beings over their own bodies. In the field of human rights, violation of bodily integrity of another is regarded as unethical, and in this sense, unethical infringement, intrusive, and possible, well, of course, possibly it is considered also a crime. And why I wanted to begin with the meaning of bodily integrity is because when we discuss the matter of abortion, currently we are having largely discussions about whether we're allowing women to decide if they are even allowed to consider abortion. And we're not discussing about third world country where the beliefs of this is based on religious ideas or personal beliefs or moral or ethical beliefs or standards. We're discussing literally the very essence of legislative power that government has over your own body. And I'm not talking about men's body or children's body. I'm talking about a grown woman. And this is why it is important. Because I understand that there are still countries in Europe that when the legislative power is actually legislating laws, they do take into considerations the government's religious ideas or principles on which the government is based on. But this is a basic human right. Now, these are not my own beliefs, nor what I stand for. But I have to certainly emphasize that I am against any government that is not respecting the bodily integrity. Every human body, regardless if they were men or women, they have right to their ownership of their own body. We are not living in 18th century where slavery is still accepted. I'm not saying that slavery, the modern type of slavery, is not existent in the world right now. I'm talking about how legislative power has legislated these laws that regards this matter. Now, why I wanted to mention this first was the two key international documents protect these rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Two internationally accepted documents protect these rights. And the European Union was established under few of these important documents that protect our basic human rights. And the human rights and constitutional rights project that there are four main areas of potential bodily integrity abused by the government. These are right to life, slavery and forced labor, security of one's person, torture and inhuman, cruel or degrading treatment or punishment. So basically, it is accepted now internationally that government may or has already been in some sort of situations violated the basic human rights. And when the human rights as a legal field was established, and I'm not going to say that human rights is a internationally stated a legal field. I mean, there's many definitions for this, but the point is that usually when we're discussing the potential violations of the bodily integrity abused by the government, there are four different areas, main areas. And like I mentioned, first is right to life, which government may abuse sometimes. Second is slavery and forced labor. Again, government may, I'm not talking about all the governments in the world, I'm talking that some governments may violate this right. Security of one's person. This is an important as well, because I'm going to be discussing this matter as well today. And the fourth one is a bit long, but is torture, inhuman, cruel or degrading treatment or punishment. This means, for example, I'm going to just give you a hint of an example of what I'm talking about when I'm talking especially on torture and inhuman treatment. We can, in this sense, take an example of the Guantanamo Bay that the United States is still... Well, I'm not going to say anything else on that, but Guantanamo Bay, that's all I'm going to say at this point. I think before we can even discuss the women's rights on this matter, I have to explain why this topic wasn't important for, in my opinion, to be heard. Like I said, this year in particular, the women's right has been questioned in many fields, in academic work and by the governments. And through the bodily integrity, every human being, women especially, are more often affected in violations on gender-based violence. These include sexual assault, unwanted pregnancy, domestic abuse, limited access to contraception, and that's just about the main things why we do need to talk about this matter. I want to take a short break, and after that, I want to talk more about reproductive rights. Good late afternoon again to those who are tuning in to Radio Espoo FM International. My name is Nargis Hadi, and today we are going to be discussing about the matter of abortion law. And right now, before we took a break, I wanted to discuss about the reproductive rights that are part of the international legal rights considered to be part of the freedoms that, for example, are considered to be part of the international accepted documents. Now, how to define the reproductive rights? In this sense, reproductive rights rest on the recognition of the basic rights for all couples and individuals to decide freely and responsibly the number, spacing, and timing of their children, and to have the information and means to do so, and the right to attain the highest standard of sexual and reproductive health. They also include the right of all to make decisions concerning reproduction free of discrimination, coercion, and violence. This literally means that regardless if you were a couple, heterosexual couple or same-sexual couple, it doesn't matter, because as a human being, you have right to decide whether you want to have children or not. How many? You can decide. When to have them? You can decide. On what issues you do not want to have the child you're currently pregnant with, you decide that as well. Basically, when we're talking about reproductive rights, we're talking about the rights to say either yes to the pregnancy or no to the pregnancy. And what I mean by this is that when we discuss the matter of who has the ownership in the fetus, I'm not talking about as it was an object. I'm talking about because you do need two human beings to make a baby. That is a scientific fact that is already been proven, and that is how we make babies. That is how. Okay, this is a little bit of a funny thing to mention. I'm not lecturing how you're going to make a baby. The point is basically that when we're talking about these rights that men and women both have, we're talking about the rights regarding why, in this sense, abortion must be legalized regardless of the situation the human being is in. And I'm going to explain you now why. In general picture, most of the countries in the European Union have legislated allowing for early abortion on request and permitting terminations in certain circumstances beyond that. And I think this was in 2018, actually, in late January. The regional director for Europe at the Center for Reproductive Rights, Leah Hochter, told the Euronews that 25 out of 28 EU member states have made it lawful for women to access abortion, either on women's request, without restriction as to a reason, or for reasons of distress, or on board social and economic or physical grounds, at least in early pregnancies. Now this means, basically, if I'm not going to be stating the statistics of the situation, but what I want to do is to paint a picture. What I want to do is to paint a picture on what I'm just trying to get you guys to consider. Now, Miss Leah Hochter said that 25 of 28 EU member states have made it lawful. But she also stated that at least only in early pregnancies. Currently, in the European Union, only countries that allow fully for a woman to, in any situation, now I'm not talking about how old the fetus is, or I'm not talking about at what point to terminate the pregnancy. I'm talking about whatever was the situation. Finland and Denmark are the only EU member states that are allowing the abortion on the request, on means of economic or social reasons, if impairment, if there was a case of rape or incest, if there was a case of intellectual or cognitive disability of the woman, meaning the mother, or if the mother is having mental health problems or physical health problems. Now, she said that 25 of 28 EU member states are allowing at least in early stages of pregnancy. And I have here a list of all the European Union countries. And this actually includes United Kingdom as well. I don't know why they still include it, because, as we all know, soon UK is not going to be part of EU anymore. But anyway, the point is, I have here the abortion policies in the EU countries. And when I'm looking at the list, when any woman walks in to, let's say, a health station or doctor's office and says that they want to terminate the pregnancies in early stages, I can actually count that, okay, Sweden allows it, Spain allows it, Slovenia, Slovakia, Romania, Portugal allows it, then Luxembourg does also, Lithuania and Latvia, Greece, Germany, France, Finland, of course, Estonia, Denmark, Czech Republic, Cyprus and Croatia, Bulgaria, and Austria. But when we go to the economic or social reasons, or fetal impairment, or rape, incest, or intellectual or cognitive disability of the woman, or mental health or physical health, the list is narrow. The list that countries that accept the termination of the pregnancy in this situation is very, very narrow. And what I mean by this is, when I'm looking at, for example, let's say that there was a case of rape. In Austria, Belgium, it is not allowed. In Bulgaria, it is questionable. You need more information, and that before the doctors need more information on this before they allow it. Okay? Same thing goes to Ireland and Italy. They don't allow it. Luxembourg, Malta, they don't allow it. Netherlands. Well, in this sense, which is quite bizarre, Poland does allow this. And when we go down to the list as well, Romania, Slovakia, they don't allow it. Oh, actually, sorry, Slovakia does, but Romania doesn't. And when I'm thinking about the list, when I'm looking at it, here is a question mark on Sweden's point, and I'm not even sure that's how is the situation in Sweden. Because right here, when I'm looking at the list, there are only question marks. So that means it depends on the situation according to this list. But as you can see, in most of the European countries, you can't just go to the doctor's office and explain that you're still not 12 weeks pregnant and you want to terminate the pregnancy before your child grows. And when we're looking at the general picture and how the abortion law is accepted here in Europe, we always have this positive, ideal image of how things are in European Union, but we have to understand that the cases might not be entirely like that. There are situations where women might be pressured by the community or even the doctors or the government to keep the baby. One of the landmark cases that was the ruling was given on March 20th, 2007 by the European Court of Human Rights. And before I even talk about this case, I do want to take a short break, and after that I'll come back to you on the same issue. Good late afternoon for those who are tuning in right now to Radio Espoo International. My name is Nargis Hadi, and today's discussion is about the abortion laws here in European Union and in the continent of Europe in that matter. So we were discussing in the beginning of the program about the bodily integrity. Then we moved on into reproductive rights. After that, we discussed which European countries have the strictest abortion rules. And we found out that my home country, Finland, has the best situation in Europe currently. Also, in Denmark, we have the same situation, which is kind of good. So, thumbs up to Finland and Denmark. And after that, I wanted to talk about this landmark case that European Court of Human Rights ruled on, and it regarded the abortion decision. Now, this is a little bit old case. It was the ruling or the decision was given on March 20th, 2007. And the case centers a tragic story of Alicja Tysiak, a Polish woman who nearly went blind because she was forced to continue the pregnancy that threatened her health. Numerous of doctors had advised Tysiak that pregnancy and delivery posed the risk of irreversible eye damage, but they refused to issue a certificate authorizing an abortion. She was left with no choice but to carry her pregnancy to term with the devastating consequences. Now, I hope I said her name right, but the basic thing was that the plaintiff, Mrs. Alicja Tysiak, a visually impaired Polish woman, was denied an abortion on health grounds, even though medical diagnosis confirmed that if she continued the pregnancy, she could have severely impacting her vision, thereby constituting a risk to her health. Now, the summary of this case is basically that she became pregnant in 2000. And she consulted more than one doctor about the possible impact of the delivery on her eyesight. And many doctors said and concluded that the pregnancy and delivery posed a serious health risk. Still, all of the doctors she saw refused the estate and issued of the certificate for the pregnancy to be terminated. After obtaining a certificate to authorizing the abortion, the applicant went to the public hospital in Warsaw to have the procedure. Only again, she was refused. At this point, the applicant had no choice but to carry her pregnancy to the term. And, as predicted, when she delivered, her eyesight was badly deteriorated due to the hemorrhage in her retina. Corrective surgery was not possible in her case, and she currently faces a serious risk of blindness. In September 2005, the center filed, and we're talking about the Center for Federation of Women and Family Planning, and the other one was the hold on a second. There was the center attorney, meaning Christina Zampas. She was the one who took this case to the court. And when they're mentioning the center, they mean her specifically. When she filed a brief for the European Court of Human Rights, asking if the court could find a violation of the European Conventions on Human Rights when a state fails to ensure that the woman legally entitled to abortion can effectively exercise her rights. So the point was that she was, after many, many consultations, given the certificate, still refused. The point was basically, in this case, when they brought it to the Court of for the European Court of Human Rights, the lawyer wanted to know whether the European Court of Human Rights could find a violation in the European Convention on Human Rights. Well, I think anyone who is reasonable would, right away say that there is a violation. And at this point I'm going to say that the hospital should have terminated the pregnancy. So what happened after that was, for the first time, the governments do have duty to establish effective mechanisms for ensuring that all the women do have access to abortion where it is legal. Meaning, if a woman is legally given a chance to determine her pregnancy, she is also allowed to use that legal right. This case centers, like I said, the tragic story of Alicia Tisiak. And I think when we think about the consequences, she has now a child, I assume, but she's also almost blind. Because even though if she gave birth to that child, her eyesight could not be restored. And I don't even know how to discuss this matter without thinking of how the woman is living right now. The thing is, in this case, by law, Poland does allow women to have abortion when their health is in danger. For Tisiak, the state clearly failed to meet its legal obligation. The mother of three is now unable to work, wholly dependent on public assistance, and in need of constant care, day-to-day activities, and for her children. The court awarded damages specifically in recognition of her anguish and suffering. Again, even though the European Court of Human Rights awarded the damages to be paid, don't Don't forget that this woman is going to be blind for the rest of her life. She has already 3 children. I don't even know if she has today more, but the thing is, when we're discussing the abortion laws, we do have to seriously think about the consequences of what is going to happen. In the beginning of this program, I said that whatever I'm going to be discussing today are not my own personal beliefs on this matter. Neither they are the whole medical procedure in abortion. I don't quite accept it, but science still hasn't figured other methods for this. So what I want to say is, I do want you to pay attention to when we are discussing the abortion law, what it means to have the right for a woman to actually decide what is better for her and her family and the close ones that she loves and wants to continue living with. Like I said in the beginning, the bodily integrity, that is one of the most important legal terms there is. This same legal term can be considered on issues regarding unethical infringement, intrusion, and possible crimes against humans. And what I mean by this is, let's say that there is a crime against your right to life, or a case about the slavery and forced labor, modern type of slavery and forced labor, of security of one's persons, or torture or inhuman treatment, or even a cruel or degrading treatment or punishment. In this sense, I would like to finish this program today with a thought. If there is not a court in the world that constantly checks what the governments are doing to their own citizens regarding if we were members of a union, and I'm discussing about Europe as a continent, or if we were a member of a particular convention, if we didn't have courts like European Court of Right or International Court of Justice or even International Court of Human Rights to seriously check twice what the governments are doing, then at this sense, anything what I said today can be forgotten or even stated to be just me babbling about things that doesn't even matter. What I mean by this is, these kind of rights, they are simple, basic, and fundamental human rights. They are freedoms related to one's own body. And women, especially, in this sense, have had a very tough year. I'm not saying because of the Time's Up movement or any other movement. I'm saying because still there are countries that are considered to be the first world countries that are treating women with undermining their dignity and basic human rights. Now, this topic has been quite tough to talk about, honestly, because I do want to have more than an hour to speak about these issues, but what I want to say is, no matter what, if we're talking about the legislations or the reality, in some countries the legislations may look very restrictive or even oppressive on paper, but in reality some women are able to access the care they need without any difficulty. And in others the opposite is true. They may have fairly liberal legislations on paper, but the fact that when the women go to the hospital, they might be treated in different terms. Anyway, I think the time is up, and all I want to say is thank you for all of those who are tuning in right now to Radio Espoo FM International. I understand that this topic today was a little bit hard to grasp, but in future I do want you all to continue supporting our radio station, because we're bringing you more and more and more great programs in Arabic, in English, and also in near future, in Finnish as well. Thank you for all who have been tuning in to Radio Espoo FM International. My name is Nargis Hadi, and I have been your host today. Have a great night.